In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a tin and capture that panel from a tin in the chain, and then through the parameter part of the chain, pass the name of that tin into the panel. Alright, so just to start off with, you would normally go to tins, create, triangulate data, and we would normally type in here survey as the tin name, hit enter to get the model for the tin, and I would capture that as a function so I can recalculate it. The data tab here, in this case I've got a survey view here that I want to triangulate everything in the survey view. So let's pick survey, and nulling, say yes, I do want to do some nulling here. So normally you would just triangulate that, but let's see how we can capture this panel in a chain. So let's do that next. So let's just go to utilities, chain, and we'll just create a chain to first up. And I'm just going to call this create tin name from parameters, and let's write that away. So we would normally come down here and insert some commands in here. So the first up, I just want to do a just put a comment in here, and the comments sit under the other part of the chain here, and I'm just going to call this, just put a bit of a comment here. It's going to be a heading, it's going to be create tin, and that's just going to be my first comment. And the next part would be to capture how we can capture this panel, and we can do that by inserting a new command here and going under the option manual, so we can record that panel. And the first thing we do here is we capture the data down here. So click on a capture data, select on your panel, and then that all the data in the different fields is being captured. And the second part, what we have to do here is to capture the buttons that we would normally press to execute this command in the panel. So just capture buttons, that's the first button we would capture to triangulate, and then capture it, and that puts that up here in the buttons area. And the second button is the finish panel, and that's been entered here. So if we just say write that away, and let's just close this panel now and make it a little bit bigger. If we do a preview now on this this particular command, it remembers that panel that we captured there before. So that's been captured in the chain, and we could execute that here. If we ran that, hopefully with a bit of luck, it would have run that panel, and we would have got a tin called survey. And let's just go to the plus button here, come down to the bottom, and we do have a tin survey now that's been created. So we just captured that panel in this chain, and that's great. Let's just take that off there. Now the next thing I want to do here, if we previewed that command again the second time, it's a red flag here because that tin already exists, so it can't actually create it because it's already there. So I'm just going to introduce one more command before this to delete the tin before it gets created. And so I'm just going to insert a new command here, and if we come over to the type here under elements, you can delete a tin. So I'll click on that option. What tin do you want to delete? I want to delete the survey, and I click on the ABC button, and that fills that in for me. Now if I run that first, just execute on that one, and then come down to the second one and say do a preview on that, then it's happy. It's not red, so tin doesn't exist, so it's happy to create it a second time. So that's fine the way it is there. Now the next thing we can do is show you the parameters side in here. So instead of having this tin name hard coded as survey, let's see if we can change this name in here using the parameters of the chain. And I'll show you how you can do that. So we need to create a parameter value file. So I'll normally copy this same name here. I normally match up the tin name with the parameter value name just so they go together. And the best way to create that is come down here to the envelope and just click on open, and that'll create it for you. And you can come here to write and that'll save it away. And now you've got a parameter value file here called create tin from parameters. So the first one I want to do now is I want to insert a new parameter in here, and let's just get that panel open here just to show you what's going on here. And so under the parameter value file, if you click on the insert button here, similar to the chain, we want to insert some text. There's a few different types here, different types of parameters, but we're just going to stick with text just for this one, for this exercise. So the first one I want to do is I need to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this the first one I typed here, which is the new tin name. So new's already there, new tin name. So that's the name of the parameter, and the value I'm going to type in is survey, which is the same name here. And let's just write that away, and that's saved that new one parameter value file in there. So let's create two more. So essentially I've created a parameter value for this cell here. Let's create one for this cell, and let's create one for this cell here. So the next one I'll do is I'll do this one, model for tin, and I'm going to call that the same name, model for tin. So it's the same name as this one here, as this heading over here. And what I'm going to do in this case is it's going to be called tin, and then I want the same name that's in this field here. And we've already done that here above, and that's the new tin name parameter. So what I can do, I can copy that parameter name here from the new one, and come down here and put a square bracket either side of the new tin name. So essentially this value, whatever the value is in here, is going to get passed down into this area here. So it should be called tin then survey in this case. Yep, so that's all good. And let's just do one more for the this field here, the retriangulate function. So I'm going to call this the same name just so I know what field it belongs to. Retriangulate function is that name there, and this one's the same thing, exactly the same. Tin at the start, and then followed by the name, whatever name is in here, I want it to be the same name in here. And that's all I'll need to do for that. So let's just write that away, and that parameter value file has been saved off. So the next thing I want to show you now is how we can pass those parameters in the parameter value file into the different fields here. So we click on this option here, which is recorded, this option where we captured that data through this part here. If we click on the plus button, we've got a little little branch there called parameters, and this is where we can enter the different parameters to go into these different fields. So how we do that, we click on down here the button that says pick parameters. So I'm just going to close this panel here. So we go pick parameters, and then it comes up with a parameter value file, and we go to pick the first one here. So you can see that that panel comes back up and it says what value do you want to pass into what box. So let's start with the first one here, which I typed in the name, the new tin name. It was survey. So it's put in the name of the field, and that's what it's called. And the general in brackets means it's in the general tab, and that's the general tab there. And it's a tin, and the current value is survey. And this parameter option here, if you click in that box and do a right mouse button, I want there is the new tin name parameter to go into that box there. Make this a little bit bigger. Yep, so that's the first one done. Second one, I go to pick again, and I pick on the model for tin. So that's the second one there. You can click on there, do a right mouse, and that's the model for tin. So I'm matching up the names here, and as you can see, that's why I've typed in these names to match up with these names. That way it's nice and easy, and we don't get them mixed up. So that's the second one, and the third one is pick again, and it's this retriangulate function. So you click in that box there, so I get my third one, and click over here, right mouse again, and it's the retriangulate function here. So that's all good. So that's all filled out, 1, 2, 3. Yep, so we can just set and finish now on that, and I just click on this one that just says use the original value, or use, and for that's the first one, second one, and the third one. So now under here, under parameters, you've got the 3 boxes filled in. So let's see what we can do with this now. So I'm just going to write that away and replace it. So what we can do here, we can actually, what I'll do is, this up here it says prompt for parameters. If I turn that on, these parameters are going to be prompt for me to change if I want to. So if I click on that, and I'm going to save the chain and replace it and close it. Unfortunately, you've actually got to close it to prompt for parameters, and then we run this chain externally. So if I just finish on that, so I'm just going to come down to this, my recalc panel I've got open. If you're not sure how to get that one, it's under utilities, recalc. You can rip that off there, and this is quite handy to have open, because down the bottom here you can edit a chain, or you can run a chain. So I'm just going to run that chain, this one here, which I was working on, create tin name. If I select that, so you can see here now that chain's run, and the parameter value have come up, because I said I wanted to prompt for parameters. And what you could do now, I could go into my tin name here, and I could call this survey A if I wanted to. Let's say space A, and write and finish, and replace, and it's gone away. It's done something. So hopefully we've got a tin now in our project that's called survey A, and yes, I do. So that's one way you can get the name to be prompted to come up. And if I do a preview on that, so essentially it's substituted survey A now in all those boxes, because I prompted when it came up. I made that as a prompt. But that's probably not the easiest way to run it. There is an easier way, and I'll show you how to do that next. So now let's see how we can use a prompt for parameters in the chain instead of using this prompt for parameters. So I'm just going to turn that off. So I'm just going to create a few more commands here in my chain. Just want to copy the command here. So I'm just going to, this one I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call this prompt for tin name. And let's copy paste like to put in these sort of breaks in my chain just so I can see the different parts. Cool, so what we can do here is let's create a new command here, and the type, it's under the other directory there, and it's called a prompt. And opens up a pretty big panel here. And let's see how we can fill this out. So the first thing I want to do is, essentially this is going to prompt me with a dialog box is going to come up on the screen, and I can type in the tin name that I want in that box. So let's just give this a name here. Just going to call this tin name, and I'm just going to put, just for the exercise of this little training video, I'm going to put in an A in bracket there, and it's just going to help you see which part of these boxes here, which part populate the panel coming up. And I'm going to call this enter tin name, and that's going to be, say, B. Oops, be consistent caps there. And the parameter value file I want is tin name in there, if I spell that correctly. Tin name. Okay, so that's all good there. Come down here, and we're just going to type in a name here. This is the message that's going to come up on the dialog box. Type tin name here, and I'm just going to put a little dash and an arrow, and this is going to be, just put a C after that so you can see what's going on here. And the parameter value, the parameter type here, if we do a right mouse, because it's reading the parameters from this one, we can actually type in, that's going to be the new tin name. That's going to be the name of the parameter. And this is this optional? And no, so someone's actually got to put in some sort of something in that box. And the last bit here, we're actually going to create two buttons on the panel. So the first one is create button, and that's going to be the first button. And I'm going to have a finish button as well, and that's going to be button 2. And name there, in the command line name, the command name is going to be appear there. Cool, so let's just write that away and replace that. So if I hit the execute on that one, you can see here what's come up. This has been executed. So I just wanted to show you, so the prompt title is obviously this title here, which is A. B is enter tin name, so whatever's in that text there goes in that area there. And this name here, type tin name here, is number C. So you can see that one matches up with that one. Cool, and so that was the last thing that was in the parameter value file here, and that's why it's filled in survey A. And so whatever you type in this box here is going to be entered into this parameter file name here, so the new tin name. Cool, so that's how we can create a prompt. And before we all run that through and see how it works, we can actually create just another command here. And we can actually, to test this, we can actually prompt whatever we type into the prompt dialog box, we can display it through the output window here. And I'll show you how you can do that. So the next one, first thing I want to do is clear the output window. So I've just created a new command here, and clear output window. And yep, so if I run that, and then I go to my output window, you can see there it's clear. I'll just move that one up. So that's all been cleared out. And we just want to create one more command here. And again, it's under other. and as you can write to the output window. And we want to use a parameter, and the parameter name here is this one here. It's new tin name. That's the parameter that we want to display here. So I want to click onto that, the parameter here, use parameter, and what parameter do you want to display to the output window, and that's the one there. And I just hit the ABC button, and it's going to write to the output window, and I can just so you know what it is, I can just put in that there, copy and paste. So it's going to write to the output window, and the name of the parameter is the new tin name. So I'm just going to turn these two off just for now, deactivate those two, and I'm just going to run this chain, and it should run the first 3 lines here that we've done with the prompt window. So let's run that. So I'm just going to put in 1, 2, 3 as an example, and just go create, and go back to the output window, and you can see here the new tin name it's got is 1, 2, 3. So that's working perfectly. Alright, let's just save that away and write that. Right, so let's just turn these two back on, and this is ready to be run through. So I'm just going to hit run down the bottom here, and it'll run from top to bottom, and let's see how this will work for us. So I'm just going to hit run. It's asking for the name, so again I'm just going to call this survey ABC, and go create. So hopefully it's passed that tin name into this panel for us to create the tin. So just go to the minus button and turn off that survey A, which I had from before. And now if I go to my plus button, there we go, I've got survey tin ABC. And yeah, nowhere we can see you know, this panel coming up that's prompting here. Just the numbers are pretty much just passing in from this particular panel here. And that's how you can, you can pass a tin name from a prompt into a panel, and it'll just make it much quicker and make your life a little bit easier there. So let's continue on now to the next part of the this video for you, where a lot of people, once they're happy with the triangulation and they've nulled it and they've adjusted all the triangles that they need, we normally get them to create a boundary around that tin, just so you've got a boundary to use for future use. So, and that's what the panel would look like normally. So we'd normally have, you know, survey in there, and as the tin, well, let's say survey A in this case, because I haven't got survey, and the model for the boundary, I would normally call that BDY for tin survey A in this case. And that's the model I would create for the boundary around the tin. So let's just leave that there so we can capture that panel. So I'll just come over here, and let's just copy these 2 lines here, copy and paste. And this one I want to call is create tin boundary. And let's create another command here so we can capture this data here. And if you remember from last time, it's under execution, and it's the option manual here. So capture data is that panel there, and capture buttons is create and capture button and finish. And I get the 2 buttons here that have been captured there. And let's just write that Save that away, close that panel. Alright, so back to the parameters. So the only thing I want to show, I'll just close that, but I should have left it open. So the only thing we need now is the tin name we already have in the parameter here. If we open that file there, the new tin name is this parameter here. We've already got that, so whatever we put in the prompt will actually be prompted here. We just want a new one here, is the model for the boundary. So what model do we want to call it? So what I want to do is create a new part of the parameter value file, and I want to put a new entry in there, and I'm going to call this, to be consistent as before, it's going to be called model for boundaries. There we go. Model for boundaries. And what I had before, I should have left that open, but that's alright. Let's just do a preview on that. So I've got, I'm going to call it boundary tin, and remember that was the tin name, and wherever the tin name exists I'm going to put in that, remember the square brackets, and new tin name. So I'm going to copy that and paste that. So that'll be, that name there will get substituted in this panel here. Alrighty, so let's just write that, and that's finished off that one there. Yep, so here we've created the, we've captured the data, and we come down here to the parameters area. Remember, like before, pick parameters and pick, and the first box here is the tin name, and remember that's the new tin name, that's that parameter there. So whatever parameter, whatever name we put in the prompt will get passed into that as well. And the second one here, we go pick, and that's the boundary for parameters, and I'll click in this box, right mouse, and model for boundaries, which matches up with this name here. And that's it there. And again, we could, you could put another parameter in for the color. So any of these fields here can be entered as parameters, but we're just going to keep it simple. Let's keep the color as the default there. So set and finish, and use the original value, Alrighty, so now that hopefully will create a boundary around that tin. Again, so let's just write that and replace, and let's run that from the top, and just go run. Again, I'm going to call this XYZ, getting a lot of tins here, but it's okay. So survey XYZ and create. So hopefully that value would have got passed into this panel and this panel here. So let's go here, let's take off that one from before. So hopefully we should have a, start with the tin XYZ, yes we do, and I'll take that off so we can see the boundary, and hopefully we've also got a boundary, and there it is, boundary tin survey XYZ, and you can see here it's the cyan line, which is a boundary around my site here. Yeah, so that's again, so that's how you can pass that same tin name into creating a tin, creating a boundary, and that seems to be working perfectly. So just now, the final part of this video I want to show you is after creating the tin, then the boundary, and the last thing we'll be doing is creating the tin contours. So let's go here and come down to tin contours and smooth and label, and let's fill this out as we would normally. First thing I'll pick here is my survey A, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to call this contours for survey A. That's going to be the function name. Survey A is the tin, and the model for the contours is going to be contours survey A minor, with a space in there. I'm just going to copy that, and the next one is the major. Change that to major, and the last one is the labels. We're going to paste in there. We're going to call this labels, and we're only going to label the major contours. And the last thing we need to here is give it a text size here. So let's pick out one of the white out ones. All right, so that's all filled out nicely, and let's just create a new command here. Just put in a label there, create tin contours, and let's go here. You remember this from the previous two that we've done, exactly the same process, option manual, and let's just select that, capture data, pick the panel, and capture buttons, process, and the second button is finish. Alright, so let's just write that and replace that now. Alright, so that's been done in there, and let's just finish on that. Okay, the next step is to add the parameters in the parameter value file for the panels in the contours. So let's just get that panel back up, that one there. So we just need effectively 4 new parameters, one for the function name, the tin name we have already, one for the contours, one for the major contours, and one for the labels. So let's do that now. So let's parameter value file up here, let's open that. And let's add 4 more in here. So add the first one, and this is going to be the contours function name, and I want this one to be called contour, and I'll grab the name here. The tin name is going to be from the new tin name with the square brackets, same as previously. Oh, that's that one. The next one will be, we've said we've got that one, so the contours, this one here. So let's create a new one, and this is going to be the contours for, sorry, let's call that model for contours, and the value, I'll just copy that in here, and instead of the name here, I'm going to grab the square brackets with the new tin name in there, substitute that for that one there. Yep, that's for that one, model for contours, model for major contours, the next one. I'll just copy this and paste model for major contours, and copy the previous one and call this major. And the last one's the labels, and let's create a new one, model for labels. Just type that one in there, model for labels, and the value, we can copy that one, and we'll call that contour lab in there. Alright, so I think that's all we need there. That's all sitting nicely. Let's write that file and replace that. Finish. And we can finish on this one. Alrighty, so the last thing we need to do now is to come down to the parameters for that one there, and we need to add these parameters in here. So same as before, pick parameter and pick, and the first one we'll do is the function name. And the function name, right mouse, remember, and the contour function name in there. And the next one is the tin to contour, and that's going to be the new tin name in there. The next one is the contours, model for contours, model for contours. We'll just click on the second tab here for the major and go pick and select the major contours, model for major contours, and go down to labels and pick and click on the contour labels, and that's the contour model for labels, that one there. Alright, so they're the 5 values, and let's set and finish, and we want to use the original value for all those 5. Okay, now that that's done, we can just save that file, write that away and save those changes. Okay, now that we've done all the hard work, we've got all this in place, let's just run it from top to bottom just to see that it runs okay. So, got our chain open here, so just go to run, and let's type in the new tin name. Let's go for ZZZ and go create. Runs through, seems to be quite happy, and first thing to check is the tin ZZZ is there. Should have a boundary, ZZZ, that's there, and the last thing we should have is the contours, and there they are, ZZZ. Yeah, so success. So that's got everything working perfectly there. Again, so I can just finish that, and again, just to show you, you don't have to sort of open up that chain to run it. We can just run it from the recalc panel here. We just go straight to run and click on the create tin name from parameters chain, and that'll just prompt us. And let's go Y through there, and that'll happily run through. And again, we should have all those new values. Let's just get rid of the Z's, and we should have the tin Y, the boundary Y, and the contours Y as well. Great, that's it. So yeah, just thanks for watching. I hope this was useful, and yeah, I'll talk to you next time.